poor performance tonight, obviously a poor result. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think this has kind of been coming a little bit. I think we've played well in patches, but not well enough to feel confident in every single thing that we're doing. I think, you know, for me, since Bodo Glimt, we just haven't looked the same. Since after the Liverpool game, we have not looked the same, and I think it's clear and it's okay to say because, like somebody said in the chat, every good team goes through a difficult patch, but to act like it's not happening because we want to keep the good feelings going doesn't feel like the right thing to do. And you know, I just look at the team and I just think, where's the energy? Where's the intensity? And in particular, not just from the players that are starters, I expect them to have fatigue in their legs, but I don't expect the likes of Sambi Lakanga and Eddie Nketiah to be jogging. I just feel those are two players in particular that we know have on whatever occasion spoke out about feeling like they should get more playing time, but do absolutely nothing with the minutes that they do get to prove those things. And we knew it in the summer that we were an attacker and a midfielder light, and the January transfer window couldn't come any sooner because I think it's not even just like the fact that we're not getting anything from the players that are rotating. It's the starters need to feel like their jobs are under threat. And I don't feel like they feel that way because they see Sambi and Eddie and Kedia drop, performances like this and they're like, "Oh, I'm safe." So, it's not the end of the world. Like we're still top of the league and top of the group. So, it's not the end, but I just wonder when this like turnaround in form is going to come because it hasn't come yet and it's been 5 games now, and we've been good enough to still get, you know, results in most of the games, but we didn't get one today. And I just wonder, Nottingham Forest at home has got to be a banker. It has to be 100% get all 3 points and move forward. But I'm looking at this team like, are you going to get them 3 points? Are you going to get them? And not because I don't think they're good enough, but because I just haven't seen the turnaround just as of yet. So, yeah, it's disappointing, but this has been coming, and it could have been 4 or 5 if we're honest. Like it really could have been. So, as much as we wanted to put it under the rug and act like it wasn't happening because we don't want to hear anything negative, this team has not been performing at the same level since Liverpool, after the Liverpool game. It's okay to say, but it needs to turn around.
And I think a lot of people would agree with you. Igal, what is that down to? Why is this just poor form? Is it fatigue? Is it a leveling out? I mean, I'm putting to you the reasons I'm hearing across socials. What do you put this last sort of 3 or 4 games down to, performance wise?
Hmm. I'm looking at I'm looking at these games and I'm saying to myself, does it have to do with the fact that our intensity dropped now that we're on the road and we're finding it? Could it be that the fact that we're at home and we play Liverpool and Tottenham at home, people are looking at those two results and they're saying, wow, this team could do this everywhere. But in reality, when you really think about it, we've been really good this season at home in comparison to what we've been away from home. So it's like, this is what I was worried about going into after the Tottenham and Liverpool game because we set such a high bar that it's like reality is starting to sink in. This team is still this team is still able to achieve their goals, but they're going to have moments where they peak and trough throughout the season. And to expect them to have the same consistency at home and on the road, I still don't think
So
we're there yet.
I get that. So that's a fair point. But why is there such a drop off, do you think, of intensity? Is that, I mean, just because you're away, lack of quality, lack of depth? What do you put what is the reason for that though? What's the why behind the what?
I'm looking at our midfield and I'm saying, you know what? Once you change Thomas Partey and you take him out that team, it's a different situation. But today I'm not going to scapegoat Sambi Lokonga. I felt like today there was a lot of individual errors and individual mistakes that led to these goals. Plus, when we were in the final third, we were not clinical. So I would put it down to those two things. You cannot have a situation where you're not delivering on one end and you're making mistakes and howlers on the other end. That's a recipe for disaster. Today we were our own enemy, and I could take Ramsdale's goal as an anomaly, But to have consistently the PSV break us down and have goals ruled off for being offside, it just showed that they were more threatening than us in this game, and that was worrisome. We did not show the cutting edge, and I genuinely believe it's because Bukayo Saka and Jesus were not in that team. Our final third did not look that clinical at all. Martinelli was the only person on there that would be a starter, and he wasn't doing the job himself. But you know what? I take this game and I look at it in two halves. One, we need to do better. We need to do better when we're rotating to have some guys that have some continuity with each other, because we can't make 5 changes in the next round of the group stage. When we get into group stages, we're going to have to play more of our starters, and hopefully that can help us in going forward. So that's one thing that I think will fix that and mend that. The second thing, we need to sort out our clinicalness, because we've not been clinical. There's been moments where we have been clinical, like certain games, like you could say we did well against some of these other teams.
So let me just jump in for a minute.
We've not been clinical.
So there's 2 things I want to throw out to the panel here. It's 5 games on the bounce that you've not been clinical in now. Why? What is the? I get the what, because I think we can all see it. But why are you? So there's 2 things. Why are you lacking clinical edge? And we'll come back to the midfield question in a minute. What do you put it down to, Souls? Why do you think you're lacking that clinical edge?
I think the answer is the killer nature within this team. We don't have any. And I think we're coming to that realization that as much as we recruited the right players and the right profiles for Arteta to do what he wants to do, the ideas from last season haven't really changed. The way that we're utilizing Jesus in game, I think he's been given a free role to do what he wants. And I think where I came to sort of a conclusion that maybe he's been played as a false 9 rather than a striker was when he took the ball off Partey in the halfway line. And I think that was against Southampton. And I was like, why did you need to do this? He, as an individual, to be the gunman, needs to know when his position's in the box and when he's meant to be the deep line playmaking style striker. And I feel he's not got that balance just correct yet. I'm not putting it all down to him, by the way. He's had a lapse in his performance. And that's where Saka and Martinelli, Saka predominantly has stepped up against the likes of Liverpool as well, coming in with 2 goals and, getting a few contributions in. But I think the nature is the mental inconsistencies within this team. They just lack clinicalness. And Jesus has scored some beautiful goals. And then when it comes to those simple finishes, it's like, why are you not scoring these? And I think that's what it comes down. It comes down to all of them. Even Martinelli, for example, right in the first half today, when Xhaka played the ball over, he chested it, which was a smart move to do. Then he rushes to finish. And I'm like, why did he do that? Like, there's certain things where I'm looking at this team and I'm like, there's certain moments where they need to calm down. But it's also the pressures on them and they know they're undroppable because, and I think that's the second part is Nketiah knows he's never going to get into the first team. So I think he's accepted that and he's just putting in performances to the bare minimum rather than trying to push Jesus out of this team and take that first position to himself. So I think there's a mental block somewhere that we need to overcome.
For me, if Sambi and Nketiah need to be playing every week to feel important to this team, and that's the only way that they're going to contribute to the cause, then we don't need to be relying upon them. You can't be giving Eddie 100 grand per week and his parameters are, but I need to play a run of games. You're not going to get a run of games. So when you get in there in the Europa League, like Eddie at a certain point last season was running defenders down, was pressing, was doing all the hard work, and he didn't have the technical stuff, but we could let that go because the energy was there. He was fucking jogging today. He was jogging. I'm sorry. And I'm just kind of like, if you're not going to be able to contribute unless you're starting every single game, then you need to go somewhere else. And that's not even to be rude, but we need players that can contribute no matter what. And I'm seeing the same pattern from those 2 players in particular, where they feel like they need a run of games, but you're never going to displace Jesus and Partey. Yeah. You're never going to do it, and not playing like that.
Not without coming in and being top quality. And I remember you and I, Gal, were speaking. We were in the studio together the night you beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge and he got the brace. And I said to you then, be careful with a player like Eddie Nketiah, because I thought he was going for a purple patch. And he was. And I think giving him the amount of money that you've done is a mistake. You should have invested that money into a better player out there in the market. Because Jess is right. He's not out there busting his backside off. He's taking £100,000 a week. What was it, a 5-year deal? 4-year, 5-year deal, player of that age? That's millions of pounds he's sorted for life, and he isn't busting a gut to try and make it into this Arsenal team, and he's missing big chances. And he in the Europa League, he's playing against teams that, in my opinion, wouldn't be in the top half of the league in the Premier League. And Arsenal Football Club need to be looking at having strikers in their team and players in their team that are going to win you Premier Leagues, not but buying players again. Who was that guy you guys used to have up front? That young lad, is it Sonogo? Like Eddie Nketiah is Sonogo level. That's it. He's Sonogo level.
But today we got outclassed. It's not only on Eddie Nketiah. It's like the whole team was poor in certain sense. If you look at that goal, the final goal that was ruled out. Look at the pattern of play and the amount of passes it took for them to get that goal. It took them like 3 shot passes to get that goal. That should never happen. Never. It shouldn't be 3 passes and then it's a goal for your opponent. And they broke on us.
Igal, like the reason why that's happening is like, so I know exactly what you're saying. Like they had like 3 passes and then they were in. But I saw Eddie up front. It's not just his fault, but I'm looking at him and I'm like, why are you not closing them down? They're getting easy passes into their midfielders and into their strikers because you're not pressing at all. And again, like, I get that everybody was kind of poor. I understand that. But like the players that are in the media saying that they deserve more playing time have no excuse to drop those types of performances because you're not fatigued and you're not, you ain't done nothing yet. So like, I get it. Like and then Sampi got taken out because in that first goal that they scored, he was just jogging. If you go back and watch it, the ball goes over his head. He doesn't try to do anything to win the ball back. And then they play it into that player. And instead of busting his ass to get over there, he's just doing one of these. Like it's mind boggling. Like, but I feel like we'll go into the January transfer window and make these reinforcements. But like, we just have to get to January. Like we just have to get to the World Cup, and hopefully these bad performances won't snowball into an easy win like Nottingham Forest at home or Zurich at home. Do you know what I mean? Like those need to be bankers so that, because who knows what's going to happen with Chelsea. And then it's over.
He made 5 changes today, right? I'm not expecting him to make 5 changes going forward for after we get out of the group stages, unless it's a cup competition. So in that sense, I'm kind of like relieved that I'm not going to be seeing these type of teams on a regular basis. And another thing, just quickly to touch on, when it comes to their side of thing, that one player was literally dribbling through our whole team. That can never happen. That can never happen in any game. That needs to be nipped in the butt. If it means you have to have a man on him or you have to change tactically, that's where I'm looking at Arteta. But in the grand scheme of things, we're still 1 point away from finishing top the group. I'm not going to take this performance and say what we've done this whole season's written off.
Oh no, we need to win now.
People who are overreacting, calm down.
I do get that, Igal. I want to go to Brandon because he's been sitting there quite quietly. I get what you're saying, Igal. This doesn't undo everything. But tonight's defeat wasn't an anomaly performance if you look at the past 4 or 5 games. Would you agree, Brandon? This has almost been coming for a number of games now.
Mate, you're not going to get any excuses from me. At the end of the day, that team was more than strong enough to go out there and get a point against PSV today. All right? And I'm seeing a lot of comments, a lot of people on Twitter blaming Mikel Arteta. Absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish. I don't want to hear that because at the end of the day, the question has to be, why have we stopped doing all the things that were working for us at the beginning of the season? Where's the press gone? Where's the intensity? Where is all of that? And I understand that he's made 5 changes, but this just shows a shining light on them players in particular that we've been talking about, that they are not good enough for Arsenal Football Club. Like Jess was saying, they can't sit there and say they're fatigued. These guys are supposed to be trying to get into the first team, but putting in performances like that, it looks like they're quite comfortable where they are. That's not good enough. You have to have competition for places. We spoke about it on numerous occasions about our squad depth not being good enough. And that is going to affect us long term if we don't sort that out in January. But this performance tonight was really worrying, Terry. I'll tell you why. Because I've seen this performance last season. We could have got battered tonight. You know, the thing is yeah, the offside flag and VAR saved us quite a lot, but that's a massively worrying performance. I thought it was a worrying performance against Southampton. That tonight was even worse.
Mm.
And Mikel Arteta is going to have to do something to sort this out. But the thing is what can he do? You know, because we're clearly suffering from a little bit of fatigue with the first team players. What's he got? What is he going to play them every single week? He can't. It's physically impossible to play the first team every single week for every single Premier League game, every single Europa League game. So we're going to have to do something in January. And if Arsenal go through a January transfer window like they did last season, doing nothing, then I fully expect us to drop out of this title race, maybe even like the top 4 race and Europa League. It'll be the same old story again, mate. So we
That's
really
very
need
I
to.
think that's
No,
extreme now.
That's
I think
very
you've gone to
reactionary.
It's not
Okay.
extreme. It's not
It
extreme.
no,
Tell me, Souls, tell me how this is extreme, right? We've seen this from Arsenal on numerous of occasions, especially under Mikel
We've
Arteta.
had we've had a few bad performances, which I understand, and I know they've been
Yeah.
terrible in terms of
And
goals,
look,
all of
every
that.
team goes
I
through
get,
bad
yeah,
performances, but this is
but I
4
still don't
games
think
in a
with
row,
that, I
and we've
still don't
gradually got
see us
worse
being
over
bad to drop
each
out of a
of them.
top 4 race. Yeah,
what
Europa League. Okay, yeah, we can get knocked out of the Europa League. I'll give you
yeah.
that one. But the top 4, come on, I 100% see us securing top 4. There's no
Here's
doubt. Title race, I think that's a delusion that a lot of people are going through
Mm.
because of how we've started. I don't really think we're going to compete with City.
Yeah, but
Do you? Okay, even if you want to hypothetically say, do you realistically today think we can get 90 plus points? Because that's what it's going to take to be in a title challenge.
no
So
chance,
we're
no
never going to
chance.
get
But
that.
what I want to ask you, Souls, is do you think it is dependent, and I'm talking about top 4 here, do you think it's dependent on whether we invest in January or not? Because
Nope.
if we don't invest in January, I'm looking at teams around us right now, Chelsea, Liverpool. Like Liverpool could come back as well. Manchester United. I see them as not better teams than us, but they definitely have better squad depth than us. And this is where I worry, where we could possibly drop out of this again. You know?
Personally,
All right, the reality is
I don't
this:
feel like we
January
should be
windows
doing
are
that.
not notorious for getting like. Yes,
That's
there's
what I'm saying.
exceptions to the rule, but they're
Let's
not
not do
notorious.
this.
All right, there's exceptions, but you can't tell me every single January window there's a big signing happening or
I feel
level
like we
raising
keep
Oh,
doing
players.
this
but
every
we
year,
don't even
though.
Souls. We don't even need a big
I
signing.
know,
Like
but
we
that's what
just
I'm
need
saying.
players.
Like,
We don't
I
even
don't
need a
think we
big
need
signing.
a signing for top 4. We need
No,
a
but
signing
Jess,
for
you
the
know what it
title
is?
challenge. Yes.
I feel like every year we do the same thing where there's a little moment of hiccup and we're like, we start looking forward to January. Let's look internally, see what we can do
Well,
in the future
I've
right
been
now.
looking towards January since the moment that the summer window closed because the club clearly felt like they didn't have enough because they put in a bid for Douglas Luiz at the very end of the window. Like for me, that showed that the club understands that we don't have enough. We also went after Rafinha, who a lot of people were like, well, we don't need him because we have Saka. Wouldn't it be nice to have a player like that right now so that we knew we had some more goals and a player that's similar to Saka and
Well, that was
Martinelli
always
just in
happening.
case?
Yeah.
So the reality is like the players that we have play, especially like in front of the back line, like I'm not too worried about Tomiyasu and Tierney. It's whatever. They're good enough to play in those games. It's what's going on in front of that. And for me, like Brandon said something so important. They're not good enough for Arsenal. If you can't add anything to a team that is top of the league, like first of all, why are you not running like your life freaking depends on it? Why are you not running like you're running to the ice cream truck? You are playing for a team that is top of the fucking league. Top of the
And
league right now.
this is
Top of the Europa League group. Why are you not running through walls? I don't fucking get it. That's what
and
it just irritates the shit out of me. You're not good enough to play for Arsenal because at our best, we have players that came off of the bench that were running through walls that knew that they weren't going to start every single game because they couldn't get in front of Thierry Henry. They couldn't get in front of Vieira. Did you see Kanu walking?
and this is the
Did
thing.
you?
Our system is based off of hard work. Our system is based off of pressing and running constantly. If we're not doing that, and you've got players like Eddie Nketiah, Lukonga, even Fabio Vieira, that boy has disappointed me massively as a signing since he's come in. Like, he's been so disappointing, it's unreal. And, you know, our system's based off of hard work. If you've got players coming in and doing the absolute bare minimum, you're going to see more results like this.
Mm.
Yeah, no, I hear where you're coming from.